Hello Year 7. Today we are going to have a look at a character called Caliban. So I would like you to write your title please, Caliban, villain or victim. Today, by the end of the lesson even, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to explain the different sides of a character using quotes to support your ideas. So we've been working on these analytical paragraphs quite a bit, and I'm hoping that you're going to get to write your own very effective, very good analytical paragraph on this character who is called Caliban. So, for your starter then, what do you learn about Caliban through these quotes from other characters in the play? So, someone says, "What have we here? A man or a fish? Dead or alive? A fish. He smells like a fish, a very ancient and fish-like smell." Someone says, "Legs like a man, and his fins like arms." Someone else says, "Monster, strange beast." And once more, "This is no fish, but an islander that hath lately suffered by a thunderbolt." So, I'm just going to explain this starter in a bit more detail. I want you to spend about 8 minutes on this starter. It's quite a long one because I want you to really think about what your expectations are of Caliban. What do you think he looks like? What kind of attitude do people have about him? Where do you think he's from based on these quotes? And for a bit of a challenge, how do you think other characters treat him, and do you think he might deserve this treatment? So 8 minutes then, what do you learn about Caliban through these quotes from other characters in the play? 8 minutes, pause the video whilst you get on with that. Okay, so here are some images of Caliban from throughout the ages. So what are your impressions of Caliban from these images? Okay, 3 minutes, write a response please. What does he look like? What do you think he might act like? 3 minutes, write down a response. Okay, so the play that we're going to be looking at then is The Tempest. The Tempest is one of my absolute favourite plays, so you are going to have to bear with me if I start waffling on a little bit about it, because I do really, really love The Tempest. So, The Tempest is set on an island somewhere nearish to Italy, and a powerful man called Prospero, as you can see on the left-hand side over here, Prospero and his daughter Miranda live on this island. So Prospero was once the Duke of Milan, but he was overthrown by his brother and the King of Naples. So Prospero and Miranda were banished from Italy and they were sent away on a rickety little boat. They came to the island where the play is set, and they have lived here ever since. But there is another person who already lived on the island. This is a strange man who's called Caliban, and he's the son of a witch who is called Sycorax. And Caliban's lived on the island his entire life. He was born on the island. So when Prospero meets Caliban, Prospero teaches him his language and he makes him a servant. Prospero is a really powerful magician who can easily take control of Caliban and make him do his bidding. Now, before the start of the play, Caliban attacked Miranda, and now she can't bear to even look at him. She doesn't want to be around him at all. So, Caliban is now a slave to Prospero and Miranda, who both despise him. So what do you think about Caliban now? 5 minutes. There are some sentence starters that you can use in the green box, and there's also a couple of questions that I want you to think about as well. So 5 minutes, get a response down please, and pause the video whilst you do. Okay, so it is really worth bearing in mind the lesson that we had last week on colonisation when we think about Caliban. The reason why this is particularly important is because Caliban is, a native person whose island has been colonised by Prospero and by Miranda. Now, they've taught him language and they've taught him a different way of life, but they've also taken him over and they've made him become a slave. So it's always worth bearing that in mind. So for your next task then, we've got a few different quotes here, and I want you to fill in a table that looks a bit like this one. How does Caliban speak to Prospero? How does he speak to him? So he says, "This island's mine, which thou takest from me," he says. So what does it show? What does Caliban believe? "A southwest blow on ye and blister you all o'er." So what does Caliban want for this one? What does he wish about Prospero? What about this next one then? "I loved thee and showed thee all the qualities of the isle. Cursed be that I did so." How did Caliban originally act towards Prospero? How does he feel now? "All the charms of Sycorax, toads, beetles, bats light on you." How does Caliban feel now about Prospero? So 10 minutes, have a go at filling it in. Once you've done that, we're going to go through the answers. So pause the video whilst you get this filled in, please. Okay, so, "This island's mine, which thou takest from me." Caliban believes that the island's his and that Prospero is like an invader. "A southwest blow on ye and blister you all o'er." Caliban wishes physical harm upon Prospero, and it's quite important to note as well that he uses very sort of natural language in his curses towards Prospero. He wants a wind to come and blow so hard that it actually blisters Prospero's skin. "I loved thee and showed thee all the qualities of the isle. Cursed be that I did so." Caliban was originally kind to Prospero and he shared the island with him. "All the charms of Sycorax, toads, beetles, bats light on you." So Caliban now feels really resentful of Prospero and perhaps even wishes that the creatures of the island would turn on him. Next up then, this is your task for the next 10 minutes. How does Prospero speak to Caliban? He says, "Thou most lying slave." How does Prospero see Caliban? "Thou shalt be pinched as thick as honeycomb, each pinch more stinging than bees that made 'em." What's Prospero willing to do here? Think about Prospero as a character. What makes him really unique? What makes him maybe a little bit Dumbledore-y? "Filth as thou art with human care, and lodged thee in mine own cell, till thou didst seek to violate the honour of my child." So, what did Prospero originally do here, and when did that stop? Finally, "If thou neglectst or dost unwillingly what I command, I'll rack thee with old cramps, fill all thy bones with aches." What is Prospero threatening here? Okay, 10 minutes, have a go at filling them in. Pause the video whilst you do. So, Prospero sees Caliban as a lackey, as a slave, who is to do his bidding, and he believes that he shouldn't be trusted, because he calls him "thou most lying slave." "Thou shalt be pinched as thick as honeycomb, each pinch more stinging than bees that made 'em." Prospero is willing to use his powers to harm Caliban. But think about the motivations behind this. I think it's to show Caliban who's boss. "Filth as thou art with human care, and lodge thee in mine own cell, till thou didst seek to violate the honour of my child." So Prospero originally cared for Caliban and let him stay in his house, even though he, thought that Caliban was just a dirty savage. He did that up until the point where Caliban attacked Miranda. "If thou neglectst or dost unwillingly what I command, I'll rack thee with old cramps, fill all thy bones with aches." So here Prospero's threatening Caliban with really painful punishments, showing that he doesn't respect him as an equal at all, and he's willing to give him, proper corporal punishment here. Okay, so I just want you to take just a couple of, probably about 30 seconds to have a look through these quotes. Label each quote either A or B. Say whether you think they're hateful or justified. So here we have, "This island's mine, which thou takest from me. A south wind blow on ye, and blister you all o'er. I loved thee, and showed thee all the qualities of the isle. Cursed be that I did so. All the charms of Sycorax, toads, beetles, bats light on you." So label each quote A or B. So this is how I have labelled these. So I think that he's really hateful when he's saying, you know, "I want a wind to blow on you and blisters all over your skin." And when he's saying, you know, "the charms of Sycorax, toads, beetles, bats light on you." You know, this is really hateful. He's wishing physical harm upon Prospero here. However, Caliban can be justified. He says, "This island's mine, which thou takest from me." So, the island, because he was born on it, he believes is his own, which I think is fair enough. And he sees that Prospero has taken that island from him. And he also says, "I loved thee and showed thee all the qualities of the isle. Cursed be that I did so." I think Caliban is really justified here because he's saying, you know, "I showed you how to live on the island," because you didn't know how to live on the island. You were a foreigner to this island. You know, so I showed you how to live on the island, but now you treat me like this. So I think that is quite justified of him. So you have got approximately 20 minutes to have a go at explaining the two sides of Caliban. So you can fill in the gaps to complete the first paragraph, then use the sentence starters to complete the second paragraph. Can you try and use any of the terminology that you learnt last lesson? Can you use any words like colonialisation or colonisation or imperialism or anything like that? Can you use any of those? So I have put the quotes underneath the green box. These are the quotes that you need to be using after where it says, "for example." When it says "this means that," what I want you to do for that one is explain what the quote actually means, okay? And then finally, how does the quote show Caliban as either a hateful character in the first part of the paragraph or as a justified character for the second? Okay, so about 20 minutes, have a really good go at this, okay? But if you're not feeling very confident, I'm just going to show you an example of an analytical paragraph. Now, this uses different quotes, and I don't want you to use the same reasons that I've used, but here's a good example. Shakespeare presents Caliban as a hateful character, especially towards Prospero. For example, he asks the character to knock a nail into his head. This means that he wishes grievous harm upon Prospero. This shows Caliban as a hateful character because Prospero had taught him language, but Caliban hates him very deeply. On the other hand, Shakespeare also shows Caliban to be justified in his behaviour. For example, Caliban says, "Thou strokest me and made much of me." This means that Caliban feels as though Prospero was originally kind to him, but then took away this kindness. This shows Caliban as a vulnerable character who may be justified in his hatred because Prospero took away his island and his affection. So, have a go at writing something a little bit like that for 20 minutes. Pause the video whilst you do. Okay, as your final task then, what have you learnt about Shakespeare's creation of villains in his plays? What are his villains like? Are they always one-sided? Are they always completely evil? Do they have, any other sides to them? Do they have any vulnerabilities? What are those vulnerabilities like? Are these characters villains by their own fault? So have a good think about that and write me a lovely and detailed sentence, please. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I will speak to you on Wednesday.